Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make a crispy fried chicken burger. So before you guys say what is a crispy fried chicken burger, it's literally a crispy chicken sandwich. No, I did not make up that name. It's just one that's been attached to it. It's on the internet. Look it up if you want to. So this is not something I made up. So that's just what it is. So what you can see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this. We have a couple of chicken breasts, we have some seasoning, some buttermilk, some other things we're going to be using. We're going to use some cornstarch to actually crisp up the outside of this, but we're also coating it with flour. You're going to need some buns, some cooking oil, some spices, especially some hot sauce and some sriracha. And when we mix this all together, this is going to be something that's going to have a bit of an edge to it. It's kind of tasty, it's kind of good, it's kind of hot, but it's definitely a crispy chicken sandwich. So we're going to work with this. We're going to take our chicken breast. Now mind you, I have two full-size ones here and one little bitty breast, so I just threw it in there for the sake of making this. So realistically, all I'm really intending for you to do is have a couple of decent sized chicken breasts. We're going to cut the fat off of them. We're going to trim any of the hard pieces off the side, and then we're literally going to take these, flatten them out, and slice straight through the center of it to make a thin piece of chicken that's going to go on our sandwich. These are not meant to be really big. Now, if you had your chicken out of the freezer thawing and it really was still a little crunchy from the ice, it's probably the more ideal way of cutting this. However, this is what we had right then, so this is the way it's being done. So I'm going to work my way through all of these, make sure I get rid of any of those hard pieces on the side or any of that fat, because you really don't want to bite into that on your sandwich. And just make sure they're totally cleaned up. And as you do each piece, just slice it through the center like I did with the first one, but turn it around to where the thicker, larger part is at the top of it near the knife as you're cutting through. It's just going to make it a little easier for you to cut. And then I have that one little tiny chicken breast that I'm just going to cut the fat off of it and just use it as is, because it's really not very thick, it's not very big, and it's perfectly okay for a sandwich. This was just basically a throw in. I didn't even need it, because when you take two chicken breasts, you got enough here to actually make 4 sandwiches, but throwing in this extra one, I had enough for 5 if we needed an extra. So now we're going to go ahead and mix up the coating we're going to use to stick the breading to this. So we're using 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. And then to this, we're going to add some seasoning because we really want this to spice up. So we're going to take about a half a teaspoon of sriracha and put into this, which has a really good spicy taste to it. And I'm going to use about 5 shots of hot sauce. Now, you can use as much of this as you want. If you really don't want it spicy, you don't want it really seasoned that much, you don't have to use that much. But once we get it in here and it's totally in with the buttermilk, we're going to mix it up with a whisk and break this up to where it distributes throughout the buttermilk. And then we're going to add the chicken to it because we want it to soak in there for a while and take on the flavor of the buttermilk and the spice. And the best way to do that is to leave it sitting in here for a little while. Now, you could do this for half an hour to an hour. You could probably do this overnight if you wanted to, as long as you cover the container and put it in the fridge. However, it's your choice, and if you don't have the time, you don't have to leave it that long. But at least 30 minutes will put some flavor into that chicken. But you know what? If you did it for an hour, it's probably even better. So we're going to do this, put it all in there, get it coated, move it around, and make sure that buttermilk is all over it. And then we're just let this sit for a second until we're moving on to the next stage. And the next stage is actually making up the breading that's going to go on the outside of this. So go ahead and make sure that the chicken is underneath of the buttermilk level as much as you can, and set it to the side. So we're going to start working with this. Now we have all-purpose flour going on here, and this is 3/4 of a cup. And then we're going to add at least 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to this, and that's going to crisp up the outside as this is frying and give us a little bit of an edge to it. And then we're going to add some seasoning. So we have about a half a teaspoon of thyme. And then after this, we're going to add a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper. And then we have like 4 different things in the next thing here. We have a half a teaspoon of paprika, a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a half a teaspoon of onion powder. And we're going to sprinkle this right over the top. And then once we get this all in, we want to mix this up so that way it's all distributed throughout the flour. So that way it's going to have an even chance of getting everywhere on the chicken when we go to bread it. So use whatever you have at hand. I'm just using a little spatula here, and I'm just moving it back and forth. And that way it's going to mix through. And as you can see, all of the colors of all of the different seasonings have been mixed into the flour. So really that means they're in there really well, rather than sitting a lot in one place on top. And then we're going to take the chicken and bring it out piece by piece, and then we're going to put it into this flour mixture, coat it on both sides, then take it back over to the buttermilk mix and then bring it back again and coat it one more time. So we're basically double dipping this and getting it really coated. The better the breading on the outside, the crispier you're going to get. So we're just going to do this with each piece of it, and we're going to keep going back and forth with this until we get through each one of these. So the good thing about it is there's plenty of buttermilk for you to do this with, and there's plenty of the breading mix to actually get on the outside for all of these. So if you had to make like 5 sandwiches out of this, you're set. There's no big deal. You're not going to run out of anything. So keep going back and forth. The best thing is as you pull the pieces out, it's easier to get to the buttermilk in the bowl as you're going around. And just keep going with this until you get all of these pieces done. And in a moment, we're going to need a skillet to fix this in, and we're going to need a large skillet because I want to put them all in at once, because it's one of those things where you don't want to like sit around and wait for like 2 pieces of chicken to be done after you've already had like 3 or so of them already cooked and finished. So just make sure that you have some oil ready, and you can use any kind of oil you want. You could use vegetable or whatever. It's just a matter of what your purpose of oil. Like if you like to use a certain kind of oil, use a certain kind of oil. You don't have to use any specific kind to cook this, just as long as you have some kind of cooking oil. And as you can see, I am finishing up the last piece of chicken here, so we are going to get ready to go to our skillet in just a second. So in your pan here, you're going to need at least about 1 inch or so of oil. You just want to really coat the bottom of this and get enough in there to where the chicken's going to sit down in it and the oil is going to come up on the side. And remember, these pieces of chicken are pretty thin, so it really doesn't take that much to cook this. And then we're going to bring all of our chicken in to this pan, which I've already had heating up a bit here. So it's actually hot. It's going to start cooking these just as soon as they get going in there. You gotta remember, the chicken and everything's a lower temperature than the oil, so it might take a second to start up. But once you get them in there, get all of them distributed, you want this on a medium-high heat, and we want to get the temperature really going on these. So when you're putting these in, just put them in side by side. You don't want them overlapping, or else you're going to have a problem with your breading sticking to each other. And we're going to get them all in here and get them going. Now we're going to want to cook these for at least almost like 4 to 5 minutes per side, but you're going for an internal temperature of at least, like, I'd say 160 some degrees or whatever, because that's what you're going to go for chicken that's cooked through. But remember, these are thin, so if you had a really thick piece of chicken, it'd be totally different. So we're going to cook these, and we're going to turn them, and we're going to do this a couple of times while they're in here. So basically I would check them between 4 and 5 minutes to see how golden they're getting on the back side, and then flip them over. And we're just going to go through this and flip them until we get them to a point where they are brown to the point we want them to be, because we really want a deep golden look on this when we're getting these cooked. So go ahead, after like 4 to 5 minutes, flip them over, and they're going to look something like this. Now on one of my pieces, when I'm flipping it, part of the chicken had turned onto itself, so I'm going to flip that again and cook it a little bit more, just to make sure that I cook through the part that had flipped over and make sure that it's cooked through inside. But when that's done, when it's finished, this is what it looks like. And this is such a great meal. These have such a great flavor, and I think you might just like these. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.